Hello, I'm Dr. Jennifer Mata. Welcome back. In this video, I thought I would talk to you about some indicators for academic success in early childhood education. There's a couple things that research has found that help children be very successful academically and in overall life. And they're very easy to do. And I thought I would share them with you because they're things that both teachers and parents can do at home to make sure that children are successful, both in school and, as I said before, in overall life. So let's get into it. Okay, so there are two things that researchers have found that highly correlate with academic success. They are vocabulary and warm, nurturing relationships. So for vocabulary, we're talking about those big, complicated words. Those words that you studied for your SATs and your GRE tests to get into college and to graduate schools. Those are the words that you need to use around children. But of course, children are going to ask you, what does that mean? Or they're going to give you those looks of, huh? What are you talking about when you use those words? So you're going to have to be ready to explain to them what the words mean in a language that they're going to comprehend, or use them in a way that they're going to understand what you mean. So sometimes you don't have to give them the definition. Sometimes you don't have to explain, oh, I'm using this word and this is what that word means. Or you don't have to wait until they ask you, what is that word that you're using, or what does that word mean, or you don't have to put them in the position of having to ask you, or I don't understand what you mean or what you're saying. But you use a word and you immediately use a synonym, or you use a word that you know that they do understand, and provides an example of the definition of the complicated word that you just use to amplify their vocabulary, because that's what you want to do when you use complicated words, is to amplify and extend their vocabulary. And I actually just did an example of what I'm trying to explain, right? So when you introduce a word that is new or that amplifies the vocabulary, you immediately offer an example of a word that they know, and as a synonym of the word of the complicated word that you just used, right? So for example, what I just did now was say the word amplifies and then say extends, right? So they mean the same thing. It amplifies or extends their vocabulary. So you use in parallel one after the other. That's another example, in parallel or one after the other. It means the same thing. So you are using words or phrases that mean the same to give them the example of the definition without having to say, oh, this is the definition of the word, this is what this word means, but illustrating for them what the definition of the word actually means. Or you can just wait for them to ask you, what is it that word means, what is the definition? Or you can say the word and then provide the definition and say, okay, I'm introducing this new word and this is what that word means. What you want is for the children to be able to introduce that word into their own linguistic repertoire, to own the word, to be able to know the word, understand what the word means, to know the definition, and then to use that word in a different context. When one, or the child, uses the word in a different context from the context in which the word was learned originally, that is when the word is part of their own vocabulary. And once the word is part of their own vocabulary, that word is theirs. And it's solidified in their vocabulary, in their linguistic repertoire. And that's what we want. Once the word is part of their linguistic repertoire, we're golden, we're solid, right? when that happens, their linguistic repertoire is being amplified. And the amplification of the vocabulary is what is correlated with academic success. That's one of the indicators, right? So the more we can do that, the more we can amplify children's vocabulary, the more we are supporting them to be academically successful in the long run, not just for the grade level that we're teaching them. So if we are a preschool teacher or a kindergarten teacher, it's not about helping them be successful in that pre-K or kindergarten grade, but we're helping them be successful in the long term. We're helping them be successful in 3rd and 4th and 5th grade. We're helping them be successful in graduating high school by providing the foundation of acquiring vocabulary at that early age. So that's one. That's one of the indicators that's been highly correlated or positively correlated with academic success. The other indicator is warm, nurturing relationships. So the warmer the relationships, the higher quality of the relationships that we create with children at a younger age, it has been positively correlated with the academic success. And for relationships, the correlation is not only with academic success, but the correlation is with overall life success. So indicators such as staying in a stable relationship, so establishing stable relationships with partners, having stable family relationships, staying in jobs for longer periods of time, so sustaining a job, staying out of prison, so not being incarcerated at a young age, staying out of trouble, essentially, but staying in school and graduating school, getting into college. Those indicators overall correlate positively with positive, high quality, nurturing, warm relationships that have been established at an early age for children. So overall, being successful at life, not just academically, correlates positively with creating warm, caring, nurturing relationships at an early age between children and adults. So not just teachers, but parents as well. And so for those nurturing, caring, warm relationships to be established, there are certain things that we can do for those kinds of relationships to occur, right? So there's a lot of physical contact that can happen, and there's barriers to that, especially in schools with teachers, because we have a lot of limitations in terms of what physical contact is appropriate versus physical contact that is not appropriate, in terms of physical contact that can be conceived as sexual or inappropriate contact that should not be occurring in schools, or contact that could be construed as aggressive or repressive towards children, that should also not be happening in schools. Some children need to be restrained for their safety and the safety of others, but that's not the typically developing child. That shouldn't be happening to them at schools or at home. But if it's a typically developing child, there should be at least some sort of nurturing, typical contact that is a nurturing, acceptable contact at school and at home, that allows the child to feel nurtured and cared for in an appropriate way, right? So there has to be a contact that is physical in a way that the child feels cared for, that is sufficient, so that it isn't lacking and it is not inappropriate. So there has to be a middle ground of physical contact, for that relationship to be nurturing enough to be positively correlated with this outcome of successful academic success and successful life outcome, right? But a nurturing relationship is not just about physical contact. There are children that are highly physically sensitive that do not appreciate physical contact, and that we don't, and we're talking now about the non-typically developing children, right? That do not appreciate physical contact, that would benefit from a nurturing, warm relationship, but do not appreciate physical contact and would very much be nurtured by a verbal stimulation, a verbal, warm, nurturing relationship that would benefit from affirmations and for verbal caring and nurturing and supporting affirmations, or from gestures and facial expressions that are encouraging and nurturing, eye contact and smiles and just facial expressions that have no physical contact but that yet are encouraging and stimulating, right? So though all of those can be very encouraging and supporting and nurturing without any physical contact. But all of these, both at a kinesthetic level, at an auditory level by communicating verbally, and at a visual level by communicating with facial expressions and gestures, can all contribute to create this nurturing, warm, high quality kind of relationship between the adult and the child that is going to carry this child through. And I think that both of these things can be done in the school and at home. Both the vocabulary support and augmentation and the warm, nurturing relationship between the adult and the child. And if this is done, if this is potentiated both at school and at home, we're creating this support for the child to be successful academically and to be successful in life. So in a nutshell, if we're trying to scaffold children and trying to think about, okay, what can we do to potentiate children and scaffold children? Well, research shows that if we use our big words and we hug and tell children all the wonderfulness that they have, right there, just by doing those two things, we are helping children, giving them a leg up in being successful later on in life, both academically and in overall life. So there you have it. 2 things you can do right now to help your child succeed. Sweet and brief. So I hope you found this useful, and I will hopefully see you again soon. Thank you for stopping by. Bye.